Remember Alpha Protocol, the game that Sega called the world's first espionage RPG from 2010? A game that promised you the ability to live out your childhood spy fantasies like never before. But the odds are you probably don't remember this game. It was a big flop for Sega when it came out in terms of sales. It really didn't live up to the expectations that they set out, only shifting 700,000 copies between the US and the UK in a month, compared to Red Dead Redemption, a game that came out in the same month that shifted 5 million copies in just 3 weeks. Alpha Protocol got hugely mixed reviews from those that did play it. Most critics agreed that it had a lot of great ideas and promising elements, but fell short on executing those ideas. However, in recent years, this first-person shooter meets RPG hybrid has grown a cult following of fans, and due to it now being unable to buy digitally because of music licensing issues, it's one of those rare games you can only play now with a physical copy. I say rare, but it only costs a few quid to buy. Like most people, I didn't play Alpha Protocol when it first came out, but I'm a huge fan of James Bond games, James Bond movies, things like Nightfire and all those titles on the original Xbox were my favourite games as a kid. I loved having people around, 4-player split screen, Nightfire was just unreal. Even From Russia with Love, like all those games, all those Bond games have a fond place in my heart, and that's what inspired Alpha Protocol. And in recent years, I've been saddened to see the image of James Bond and spies in general take a bit of a hammering in the media, maybe justifiably, to be fair. So your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to watch me play Alpha Protocol and see whether it's worthy of being a cult hit, or if it's just a bit shit. And at the same time, we're going to repair the tattered legacy of the superhero spy. You don't have to do anything really though, you can just carry on wiping your arse or whatever. I'm going to play the game, you just, sit back, watch, scran, whatever. You begin Alpha Protocol by selecting the backstory of your secret agent, setting the scene of what's led you to find yourself recruited by this secret agency that doesn't officially exist. It may seem like a pretty arbitrary choice considering no matter what you pick, you still become some bland looking American fella called Michael Thornton, but this choice, like virtually every choice on this game, affects your entire experience in some way. For example, with this one, characters react differently to you depending on your background, and each background gives you different dialogue options. Dialogue is a big part of this game. Every choice you make in this game when you're talking to someone has a real impact on the gameplay. Some are small, like an additional perk granted because you've got a good relationship with someone, and others are huge, like the choice to kill, spare, or even work with your apparent enemies.
Hello pet, you'll probably look you like. You probably know who this is, but I didn't want to come over in person because you might find it intimidating because I'm kind of hard for my age.
Choice is everything in this game, and it's one of the only games I've ever played that I've actually felt like every choice does matter. I've honestly never felt like I've experienced that before. Maybe I'm just playing the wrong games.
Shrek the Third, the game.
You can fast forward through it all and just roll the dice by picking random responses. If you're a bit of a divvy that's missed the point of the entire game. Come on, let's crack on. I've not got all day, man. Crack on. Get on with it, man. Anyway, I've waffled on a bit, back to actually starting the game. It wouldn't be an RPG without skills you can level up. So the second order of business is deciding what kind of agent you're going to be. Are you going to be a gun nut, a hacker man, or a tough martial artist master like myself? The game begins with you waking up in some random ass hospital place that turns out to actually be the HQ of your new employers.
Another one.
Like most 9-to-5s, they've kidnapped you and forced you to come to work, testing you by seeing if you can break out by beating up guards and completing Hacker Man minigames to open doors and shit. And with that, you are now an agent for Alpha Protocol, a highly classified undercover agency that's unknown even to the biggest players in US government. Basically, they get shit done without the red tape of Biden breathing down your neck. Remember Triple X, that movie with Vin Diesel? It's sort of like that, except I'm not a baldy criminal who's robbed millions of cinema goers for the last decade. In fact, I look more like a smoke Scientologist. Now we've been introduced to the three main elements of the game: combat, mini-games, and dialogue choices. It's time for our first mission. The campaign is broken down into 4 operations, each with 3 or more separate missions within them. The first of which starts in Saudi Arabia, then you unlock Moscow, Russia, Rome, Italy, and Taipei, Taiwan simultaneously. And you can play through these in any order you like. In every mission, you begin by loading into a safe house. They're all pretty detailed and reflect the country that you're in, so that really adds to the immersion factor for me. The Taipei one is especially cool because it looks like a dump, but it is in fact an undercover lair where you can go full goblin mode if you wish. Bro, I would just scran Doritos and watch old Swayze films in this basement if I had it. Yeah, absolutely, that's all I'd be doing. Tiger Warsaw, Roadhouse, Chili Heatwave Doritos, couple of dips from Tesco or whatever. What a belter, man. What a dream. From here, you can edit your look, you can buy new gear off the dark web, and you can email all the cookie and cool friends you've made on your adventures. The weapon and armor customization is another huge element that needs to be right for an RPG to be good, and in my opinion, Alpha Protocol does just enough. It's not the level of customization things like COD offer nowadays, but it's alright. The gun choice feels sort of limited and basic in that regard, but you can find additional unique weapons, items, and gadgets within your missions. It's sound, but nothing spectacularly intricate. Kinda like your mom's mince and tatties. It's suffice, you know what I mean? It fills a hole, but it's nothing to write home about.
Mince and tatties!
Speaking of customization, for me that's a big part of the fun of RPG games. Like, the more freedom the better. So I was a little frustrated with how limited you are in customizing Michael. I understand having a set name and nationality is necessary for like creating this story, but surely everything else is fair game. Like, why can't he be a black dude or have some pink hair or some shit? I don't know, maybe I'm better off playing The Sims. However, everything I'm talking about there is surface level. Like, his personality is all you're doing. You can't change the fact that he's American though, which is unfortunate. I'm joking, Americans, I love yous really, yous are lovely.
Well, hey there, Miss Money Pussy. Wanna jump on my jetpack?
Honestly though, folks, the first operation in Saudi is a bit of a slog. Mostly because your first experience of the game feels like this bland run-and-gun shooter with those tired, stereotypical brown terrorists versus American white knight vibes. I felt like I was playing America's Most Wanted on the PS2 or something, you know, that sort of your dad's favourite first-person shooter vibe. You know what I mean? You got in your dad's house, he's got all these PS2 games where it's just army blokes from America in the desert going to shoot people with headscarves on. That's the kind of game I'm talking about. You know what I mean? It just felt a bit vanilla and the missions in this operation felt a little samey. However, come to the end of this operation, things started to actually pick up a bit. A twist in the story, being presented with my first big choice, it all got me engaged again. Then the other countries' operations felt like they had much more variety and more opportunity to really take in the choose your own tactics style gameplay, which we'll come on to soon. I'd argue the Saudi missions don't accurately reflect how the rest of the game feels, so you need to just battle through those dull bits before the game properly begins. As such, after the Saudi operation, you're presented with specializations. You've got to pick what you want to be. In most RPGs, you pick this at the beginning, right? But I guess they thought they'd let you play a bit first to see how your playstyle is, then pick a specialization that suits. As you'll see from this clip, the obvious choice for me was Spy. I'm all about that Sam Fisher shit, baby. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. Now, let's get into the meat of the gameplay. Apart from this whole choose your destiny patter, the game's other selling point is that you in theory choose to attack each mission in any way you like. But for me, that's one of the most flawed aspects of the gameplay. It sells stealth. There are stealthy routes in each mission, but I don't think the AI are advanced enough to really make this strategy work as it should. And by that I mean, I feel like they unfairly spot you even when you look pretty well hidden on the screen. Maybe I'm just terrible at the game, like that could really be what's happening, but I feel the guards can occasionally spot you through cover, and then for whatever reason, every guard seems to know exactly where you are, like some sort of homing beacon, and rather than come out and check the disturbance, their first line of defense is to sling a grenade at you insanely fast. Like, they just sling grenades as soon as they hear anything. They're just blowing up everything, rats, whatever, they're just throwing grenades incredibly fast. Honestly, let me know in the comments your experience, because I'd quite happily take that this might just be down to me being bad at the game, but I've also got a feeling it's down to the stealth skill. Obviously your skills affect your in-game experience, as they should, but sometimes it feels like a huge detriment when you're aiming right at a guy, and because your pistol skill is low, the bullets are flying all over the place. So it kind of takes any skill away from the player and puts it all on you having enough pistol attributes. You could be aiming straight at the guy and the bullets are flying past his head. I don't know how to solve that. Maybe the pistol attribute rewards you with more perks, but it doesn't have to actually affect the trajectory of your bullets. I don't know, it's a tough one. I see why they've done it, but it kind of takes away from the gameplay if you ask me. Because my stealth game plan wasn't really working out, I decided I'd go full Bruce Lee and use the power of martial arts to take down my enemies. Suddenly, I turned this game from Splinter Cell into UFC 4, and it was magical.
The fight clock is brought to you by Modelo.
If you're super boring, you can also specialise in hacker man shit and play these tedious minigames to shut down cameras and, I don't know, Control-Alt-Delete your way to victory. I understand why these minigames have to exist. They do add a further element of espionage, and they can prove pretty helpful for like disarming cameras and stuff, but they do get a bit tedious, especially when you're typing away and some arsehole appears from nowhere and puts a clip in your back. That gets a bit frustrating. And so, you've got to applaud the game for trying when it comes to taking your own approach to the missions, but I did feel like I was often forced into big explosive gunfights regardless of what I was actually attempting to do, especially in the big boss fight parts. But if you're going to have big boss fight parts, it's kind of hard to do them stealthy. You've got to make them big and explosive, so, you know, I can't really grumble at that. However, where this game seriously does have to get some recognition is in the choice factor. I've said it before, I'll say it again. This is what makes this game stand out and why so many people still have love for it. The fact that you can genuinely affect the story and the gameplay through the choices you make in the game, it seems like such a simple concept, but so many games give you the illusion of choice rather than the decisions actually having an impact in your experience. For example, I can't think of many other games where you can befriend virtually anyone you want. Like, the most horrible of villains, you can just be their friends. This Russian terrorist looking woman was gunning down some guys at a train station, and I could have chosen to attack her, but instead I tried to bed her, like my hero Bond would have wanted, and thus her squad of goons were on my side, we were great pals, I got her Yahoo mail, and I could email her for help with future shooting folk, future instances of shooting guys in tracksuits at train stations. This little Russian gangster tried to murder me on a boat. I decided to spare her too because I see the good in people. This fella actually shot down a passenger jet with a missile carrying hundreds of civilians, all dead. I decided to let him go in exchange for some information, and this fella sold him the missiles, but instead of arresting him, I decided to in fact extort him of his profits and use them to buy my own weapons. Literal blood money, but that's fine. Wow, I've just realised I am actually the worst spy in the world, the worst human in the world. I am a murdering, robbing, terrorist sympathising, unlikable
American fellow.
Whoops, I didn't intend for this. I didn't intend to be this horrible. Art imitates life. Games imitate life. Except I'm not American. I would never be that. Unlikable, murdering, terrorist sympathising, robbing, all of those things, but never American. Chill out. I'm coming to terms with the fact that my Michael Thornton will never be the man that brings the glory back to the profession of spying, but your Michael Thornton just might be. And that's the beauty of Alpha Protocol. You could play this and have a completely different experience from me in terms of gameplay because of the choices you've made with your character. You could go down completely different routes, kill different people, save different people, and just have, an entirely different experience. You might even make choices that aren't completely morally bankrupt, but obviously I decided not to do that. If I was in Fable, I'd definitely have like full devil horns at this point.
Alright guys, what is up? I'm going to show you how to become full evil.
For me, it's that choice element that they've really drove home and focused in on that makes this a solid RPG and a successful first-person RPG shooter thing hybrid that I guess no one had ever done before. Obviously the subpar graphics, lack of customization, odd stat mechanics and questionable AI do bring it down a notch, but this game so very nearly delivered on everything that it promised. Personally, I found the first missions a bit of a slog, but when you get past that hurdle it really does grip you, and because of the various choices you can make, it's got a decent amount of replayability as well. I'm not the first person to say this by any means, but I'd absolutely love if they made an Alpha Protocol sequel. If they just had time to plug the gaps and kind of polish the little things that didn't go quite right with this one, and the little things that stopped it from being a classic, if they had another bite of the cherry, I think they could make something close to a classic. What's even more gutting is that the developers, Obsidian, said in a 2017 interview that they'd like to make a sequel, but because Sega own the IP, they can't do anything with it. And in 2021, Sega cancelled the trademark, so I guess that idea of a sequel is well and truly in the bin. Rest in peace, Alpha Protocol 2. We never knew what we couldn't have. We never missed. We missed what we can't have. We never knew what we missed out on. What? But overall, really enjoyable game. 7.5 out of 10. Loads of quality spying that almost had us crying. Give it a gan. It costs a couple of quid. You can pick it up from your local sweaty sex shop or whatever. CEX. YouTube, not the other one, you know. Sex. People in the UK know what I'm talking about. Shout out sex workers. Keep up the good work. Selling DVDs for 50p or a quid or whatever. All that good stuff. Keep it up. Keep selling Alpha Protocol for 350. Don't up the price because you can't buy it digitally anymore. That would be very nasty, you little cute goths. You lovely goths! Anyway, I'm off to go to my local shop and ask for a Monster Energy, shaken, not stirred. I might even get Mango Loco. I'm feeling that kind of way to kind of bring my mood up after this rainy day and after knowing that I'll never see Alpha Protocol 2. If you want, hit subscribe. I'd love to hit 1k subscribers by the end of the year. That would be a quality target. Let's work towards that. Hit subscribe and I'll buy you pies. I won't really. I won't buy you pies. Anyway, that's TikTok. You can find us on TikTok if you want to see us waffle more when I'm not doing big long videos. TikTok. Also, let us know in the comments what game you want to see played in the Hood Arcade next. Think obscure, think weird, wonderful, different, odd, or just plain shite. You know, that's the kind of vibe we're going for in this channel. Reviews of things that are odd, weird, different, forgotten, shite. Read in a bit. I'm actually going this time. Bye.